There are a lot of productivity based consumers who don't even touch the phones during their work hours. They are now integrating most of the things with their watch, right? So many of the calls are getting answered through the watch. Whatever communication that they want to do is through the watch. So those things are the ones which the productivity consumers look after.
So the virtual twins will help you to model more or less everything of enterprise. That's why we call it as a virtual twin of enterprise. Everything adds up to that sustainability goals, because you are able to do everything virtually, and when you are hitting the road, the ground, everything is sorted.
Global supply chains are undergoing a radical shift from reactive and linear to proactive, digital and network. India, projected to become the third largest economy by 2030, is uniquely positioned to lead this transformation through manufacturing innovation and digital adoption. With over 80% of Indian companies reporting supply chain disruptions in past 2 years, the urgency to digitize has never been greater. From demand sensing, smart logistics, to AI-based planning and sustainability integration, the supply chain is now a boardroom agenda. In this episode of India Leadership Talks, we welcome Seetharam Srinivasan, who oversees the complex and fast-paced operations of Titan's Smart Wearables vertical, and Ravikiran Pothukuchi, who brings a tech ecosystem view from Dassault Systems India, helping manufacturers build intelligent and resilient value networks. Together, they unpack how digital technology is reshaping supply chains from product to customer and from data to decisions. Hello and welcome to India Leadership Talks. Today we are joined by Mr. Srinivasan, who's from Titan, and Mr. Ravi from Dassault Systems India. Srinivasan, I would like to understand from you about the dynamics of the global wearable markets. It is growing at a staggering 14.6% at a CAGR, and by the 2028, it has a rapid demand. What is the evolving customer needs? What are the new products, and what is the overall landscape looks like?
So thank you for having us, Deepanshu. See, the wearables market, especially post-COVID, has a skyrocket growth. Especially post-COVID scenarios, people wanted to have a lot of health-based needs, and also when the work from home concept evolved, there were a lot of requirements based on that. So depending on that market requirements, Titan started developing a lot of new products based on the customer's needs. But in the last 2 years, the technology has had a lot of rapid changes, right? Based on that, we have to adapt and quickly deliver the new products to the consumer's needs. So accordingly, our speed to market has to develop, so which has led to us to dive deep into our internal processes and cut down on a lot of this intricate processes, so that the overall speed to market can be reduced from 1 year to almost 6 months for developing a new product. With this kind of systems, we are working closely with the consumer, because as a customer-centric organization, we work towards what the consumer wants and deliver the products based on that. Accordingly, in the last 4 years, we have been acquiring companies. We had acquired an IoT startup called Hug Innovations to develop AI-based systems for the consumer's needs, to develop and focus on their health needs, to give them their oriented requirements. Right? That is how the Titans has been developing for the wearables market. And we have had a slow and steady growth for the past 3 years.
Ravi, I would like to bring you in because wearable market is something which is changing every day. Right? We started with heartbeat monitoring. Now we have come to ECG. Now there are some technology where also trying to predict heart attacks, and then SpO2, and then there are various other numerous things. And while we talk about all this, the challenges to produce products at a rapid pace along with the technology advancements, would like to understand from you, while companies have the visibility on the digital supply chain, still there are 70% of companies which are working on the semi-digital workflows. How are you helping companies like Titan to integrate these solutions to their system so that they can, move faster what they were doing earlier?
So one is the design complexity. The second one is this distributed supply chain. The supply chain is not localized like the traditional wearables. It is distributed. When I say distributed, across countries. And when it is distributed across countries, brings the complexity of geographical tensions and trade policies, which we have been hearing.
Even as small as a chip will can change everything. And we have seen that in the past also.
Exactly. So the distributed supply chain and the complexity of the product. You couldn't have asked for worse setup than this, to go through this particular business. So that's where the platforms come into play. And at Dassault Systems, a 3D experience platform. And we call it experience because we put the consumer experience at the heart of everything that our customers do. End of the day, Titan, when it offers the smart wearable to its consumer, the consumer experience of wearing it, using it, strapping it, unstrapping it, there are so many dimensions to it. All of this have to be well thought of. And that cannot be thought in isolation by OEM alone, like Titan alone. So what am I coming to say is, the larger the distribution of the supply chain and the complex the design activity, the more integrated it has to become. And the integration has to start much ahead in the design cycle. So with the 3D experience platform, we are working globally with many customers where we are able to bring all these suppliers into the ideation cycle. Gone are the days where the OEM designs and says, okay, this is what I need, can you deliver the chip? That is traditional way. But now these suppliers are being onboarded into the design, and their innovation is also brought into the designing of the overall product and product experience. That's where these platforms come handy. So two ways to answer that. The digital supply chains is not just to bring all the stakeholders together who are distributed, the suppliers, but also bring them early on board into the design cycle so that your product design is flawless as you get into the execution mode.
So I'd like to understand from Srini, because he has talked about how from the ideation stage itself, suppliers are onboarded. How have you integrated? Because the product customization in wearable market is tremendous. Like from the strap point of view to the design and the shape, because it is actually replacing a fashion accessory. Because watches is something which is a style statement.
Yeah.
But now having those functionality of SpO2 and other features, health features, even the fitness features, how the product customization journey is happening at your end? Are you able to integrate all these things? Apart, also would like to understand any help have you got in demand planning from the predictive analytics point of view with the help of AI and ML technology?
Yeah. So I mentioned some time back on the IoT startup that Titan had acquired a couple of years back called the Hug Innovations, which is now called as the Titan Smart Labs. It is very integral part along with our Design Excellence Center. So over the last 40 years, Titan has been able to have this kind of a market position just because of our design excellence, right? So combined with the Titan Smart Labs along with our design excellence team, that is the experience which we are trying to combine and give a better product to the consumers. So during the product ideation stage, both the teams along with our product development and our ODM partners work together for creating the best of the products which has the health parameters along with the style quotient which the customer needs. See, there are different kinds of consumers who operate. It is not just the health parameters which someone wants. There are a lot of productivity based consumers who don't even touch the phones during their work hours. They are now integrating most of the things with their watch, right? So many of the calls are getting answered through the watch. Whatever communication that they want to do is through the watch. So those things are the ones which the productivity consumers look after. But it has to be a style statement for them during their work as well. Those kind of things along with the health parameters, and there is a lot of ecosystem which has been built over and above the product. So it is no longer just the product now which the consumer wants. What more does the product give me with the analytics which the sensors are giving to our app, right? So there are a lot of app ecosystem which has evolved, which plays and integrate with the softwares, right? Then the consumers can define based on those outputs. There are a lot of AI based suggestions which our team gives to the users, through which they can actually modify the diet regulations for their health needs, right? If they are hydrated enough, right? Those kind of parameters are given upfront as nudges to the consumers, right? Second, in terms of the demand, flexibilities, how are we actually coping up with this consumer needs? We have a in-house analytics team who help us dive deep to regular consumer habits, right? Since we are very customer centric and we have a very large retail presence, we have more than like 1,000 plus stores across India, we are much closer to the consumer. So in terms of the consumer needs, we can address the gaps much faster with this automated nudges. And also Titan is one of the very few organizations who work on the theory of constraints. So where it is automated replenishments across the stores at multiple levels across the supply chain spectrum is done in a much faster way. So if you see, we are one of the very few organizations where we don't have much of stockouts. Our stockouts in the retail store is like much less than 5%.
So Ravi, would like to understand from you, while Srinivasan has given a great anecdote and an example, what are the best practices when it comes to the digital supply chain tools accessible for supplier ecosystem, not just for OEMs? How are things you're tailoring to the solution for MSMEs?
Oh, this is a very interesting topic, right? The reason why it is interesting is the suppliers could be of various ranges, tier 1 to tier 4. And tier 1 may be a little with good P&L and balance sheets. They may be able to invest and afford some technology. But as it goes down in the network or supply chain, some of the companies may not have even the wherewithal or technology orientation. Not just the money, sometimes it's also a mindset, right? The technology mindset to bring it. But in wearables market, it is high precision, so I'm sure all the suppliers will have to have some technology. So there are two ways to get access to these supply chain. We also call it as value network. There is a reason why we call supply chains as value network, because there are no more suppliers, they are value contributors. Right. And it is no more a chain, it is a complex network, so we call it as value network in Dassault Systèmes parlance. We tried, not from the smart wearables target market standpoint, but we tried solving this problem by collaborating with some of the government entities on how we can make MSMEs and these suppliers become little more attracted to the technology. Okay, so we have created a setup, we call that as digital trial rooms. Okay, and people come there, experiment, learn the tools, use the tools to do that. It's a very subsidized way of getting access to the technologies. So they come to a setup, and government and Dassault Systèmes have created these setups. People go there, these MSMEs go there, use the technology for a week, do their planning, do their design, whatever it is, whatever activity that they want to accomplish with the technology, accomplish that. Initially probably at no cost, subsequently probably at some subsidized cost. But our intention, why did we do this with governments, is that eventually one day, having likened the technology, having seen its benefits, they may want to become self-sufficient, and they may want to start using technology more frequently than periodically, and then they start investing into technology. So that's one way of onboarding the MSMEs. But coming back to the smart wearables market standpoint, most of the supply chain and the value network that they have will be highly tech savvy, because it's all high precision thing. Tech savvy from the core hard tech, hardware tech, maybe not from the digital technology. Okay, Seetharam can correct me on that. Maybe while they are very good on the hardware tech, some people are still not using a good digital tech. So that digital technology is still a gap there, and we are continuously putting our efforts to take this technology to them. We're also continuously interacting with the OEMs to find a mechanism to onboard this partners or the suppliers, either by buying it themselves and offering it to them and enforcing it as a way of life, or sometimes recommending as a hard recommendation to suppliers that, okay, this is how we are going to interact with you. Now for that you have to acquire these technologies. Only then probably we can have a better collaboration mechanism.
Yeah.
So there are various ways and means.
So the success of digital transformation is only when when the OEMs and suppliers and the complete the success happens in the supply chain. So now we come to the sustainability part, because we have understand about the supply chain, digital transformation of that. Sustainability is now the top priority of OEMs, and even the countries and the world is moving towards net zero, and all those things are happening. So Srinivasan, I would like to understand how Titan is integrating its ESG goals into the supply chain strategy, and be it through packaging, green logistics, or circular recycling.
See, Titan is a Tata Group company. Sustainability is a way of life in Titan, right? It is not just in our supply chain, even our offices and everything. Most of the things are on green metrics only. So our corporate office, if you see, we don't have an air conditioner system. So it runs with water coolant system, which has been designed that way as an ecologically free. Starting with just the offices, our products, packaging and everything is mostly plastic free. Right?
Okay.
Even in our packaging, we have almost avoided more than 90% of our packaging is without plastics. Right? We are even going beyond a step beyond that, not just with recyclable materials. We are trying to use a lot of reusable materials. It is not just recyclable materials. Because even for recycling, there's a lot of power consumption which has to go. Right? And we are now trying to move away from a lot of paper-based packaging. See, people think that moving away from plastics to paper is much more eco-friendly. But paper-based packaging is also a lot of power consumption, and a lot of water consumption happens in that industry. So we are trying to move even away from the paper-based packaging.
Even trees are affected.
Yeah, trees are cut.
Yeah.
On one side we say don't print. On the other side we are
it is not
promoting
very
paper.
eco-friendly. Yeah. Right. So more than paper, we are trying to use a lot of reusable materials which can sustain for the last at least for 10 years at every consumer's home. We are already there at like almost 40%, especially for smart wearables. We are trying to move it beyond 80% by this year end. All right. With that in place, our circular economy for reusable materials is already taken care of, right? And for the last mile logistics and everything, as we mentioned, we have a very huge retail presence. Most of our logistics are on green miles right now, right? So we have a lot of preferred partners who work on EV technologies. That's our preferred base for our last mile deliveries as of now.
Any targets you have set to completely touch the net zero part?
So there is a corporate target by 2030. We want to be net zero. So
oh wow, that's
right,
aggressive.
because even our factories for our traditional watches, wherever we have established, we have more than 4 factories across India. Most of the factories are now self-sufficient. We have large solar-based energy systems installed, as I mentioned. So even for our corporate offices, we are moving into that. We are progressing well on that track, and we hope that we will be reaching at the target well before the time.
Very nice. Ravi, you have a view of different industries, not just from the retail or CPGR point of view, but from the automotive, defense. How are you?
Even from retail.
Even from retail.
Yes.
How are you viewing this sustainability as the important question in the business of these industries?
Very, very important. In fact, the digital technologies play a vital role in sustainability in 2 dimensions. One, first of all, big congratulations to Seetharaman. He spoke about green mile for last mile logistics. He spoke about moving from plastic to not even paper and some other innovative packaging, because packaging is one of the biggest culprits as far as sustainability is concerned. How digital technologies help is we call it as V plus R. Okay, and what do we mean by V plus R? If you are able to visualize the product and visualize the method, right method to manufacture it virtually, right, and validate it all of it on virtual world, so that when you are taking it to the real world, it is almost zero defect, zero error. When there are no errors on the shop floor, when there are no errors in the real world, you are saving time, you are saving natural resources, you are saving energy consumption, you are saving the raw material, which is of course is also one of the sustainability measure. So you are saving so many things. So very subtly the virtual twins help organizations to model everything. When I say model everything, modeling product, modeling plants, how my plant should be, what is the most optimum and efficient way to produce a product in terms of eliminating bottlenecks, improving the efficiencies, model processes. There are multiple ways to manufacture a particular product. What if I do this process? Does this process consume more energy? Does this process take longer time? Does this process consume a material which probably is not so eco-friendly? So look at various alternative processes and then model your materials, the material modeling itself. In fact, we have something called the formulation level, molecular modeling level, where you can look at alternative materials as well when you are conceptualizing your product. So the virtual twins will help you to model more or less everything of enterprise. That's why we call it as a virtual twin of enterprise. From product that you are offering to process, to the plant, to your network, designing your network of distribution operations, to your logistics to carry out your milk runs, what is the optimum way of carrying out your distribution and logistics planning. Everything adds up to that sustainability goals, because you are able to do everything virtually, and when you are hitting the road, the ground, everything is sorted.
So now looking forward, and it's a kind of a rapid fire question, what are the next big disruptors in the supply chain tech? So I have 3 points here. One is your autonomous planning, blockchain traceability, and hyper automation. Which out of these 3 will take the future, or all combination of all?
All 3 are currently the active technologies. If you have seen Gartner hype cycle, Gartner calls out what is the upcoming tech, and most of them feature in the peak of enlightenment or trough of disillusion. But what I would choose is, today, if you must have heard about the agentic intelligence, right, which is nothing but autonomous planning. That means you are not doing the planning is autonomously automated, right? That will help a lot of time. It's easier said than done. I mean, it is still in a early stages. I see that in addition to the other 2 points that you mentioned, right? Hyper automation is very important too. But I would pick autonomous planning, because when it becomes autonomous, it can sense the demand to the closest possible time. Today, the demand forecasting to the supply realization, there is still a time lag. But if the autonomous planning can come and say what's going to happen next minute or next hour or next day, if it can predict the demand close to the event, then because of autonomous planning, and it can give that input back to the supply capacity planning, probably we will see a lot of benefits. So autonomous planning is my pick.
Srinivasan, what's yours?
I agree with Ravi, right. See, over the past 10 years especially, supply chain has had a lot of transformation, especially with new age startups coming in, AI, ML coming into the place. Planning especially takes a lot of intricate processes, right? And especially with the new age techniques, demand sensing is the need of the hour, right? Because that gives a lot of probability and optimization for the corporates. Planning should play the utmost crucial stage at every stage, right, across the supply chain spectrum. See, for demand sensing, if you have an integrated supply chain right from your sellout of your secondary sales till your back end, right, your supply chain, if you have that complete integration done, you will be able to have a very robust demand sensing platform where the automation of planning can be done at a much more robust way, right? And that is very much required for large corporates, because with a lot of volatility in the demand, right, this is very much necessary for your
Right.
inventory optimization and for your entire supply chain optimization.
So basically, it's from hyper customization of products to hyper automation towards demand and supply chain planning. Thank you so much for joining us today, Mr. Ravi and Mr. Srinivasan.
Thank you, Deepanshu. Thank you, Mr. Ravi.
Thank you, Deepanshu. Thank you, Seetharam. It was a very interesting conversation. Thanks
Thank
a
you
lot.
so much. Thank you.